I stood at the door of the house I helped build, my hands calloused and my sweat poured into every brick, when Marina's words cut through the air like sharp blades. "Only those who work are allowed in here." Her voice echoed through the silent street, and I felt every neighbor peering through their curtains, witnessing my humiliation. I held in my hand a paper bag with the oatmeal cookies that Lucas, my 6-year-old grandson, loved so much, and a storybook for little Sophia. My fingers trembled, not from the weight of the things I carried, but from the weight of those words. 62 years of life, 40 of hard work, and there I was, being treated like an intruder on the doorstep where my son slept. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not there, not in front of her. Marina stood at the door with her arms crossed, her body blocking my view of the children I could hear playing in the living room. She wore designer clothes, impeccable makeup, manicured nails, all paid for with my son's salary because she didn't work. Never worked since she married Rodrigo 8 years ago. But there she was, accusing me of being useless, of not deserving to see my own grandchildren, because according to her, I didn't work anymore. As if my retirement was a certificate of laziness, as if the 35 years I spent cleaning other people's houses were worth nothing. As if raising my son alone, after his father abandoned us when Rodrigo was only 3 years old, was something despicable. "Marina, I just came to bring a few things for the children. Can I come in for just a minute?" My voice came out weaker than I wanted, laden with a plea that embarrassed me. She rolled her eyes, that gesture I had learned to hate in recent years. "No, Dona Helena, you can't. I've already talked to Rodrigo about this. You come here, filling the children's heads with your stories of poverty, making them feel bad. That's not good for them. They need to learn that in life you have to work, be productive. And you don't work anymore. You don't contribute anything." Each word was a stone being thrown against my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to push her aside and hug my grandchildren, but my body was paralyzed. I could only look at her, in disbelief. Behind her, I saw Lucas come running. "Grandma, Grandma's here." His little face lit up with that smile that always melted my heart. But Marina turned quickly and placed her hand on his shoulder, firmly, preventing him from approaching. "Lucas, go play inside. Grandma is leaving now." The light in the boy's eyes went out instantly. He looked at me confused, and I tried to smile at him, but my lips trembled too much. "But I want to see Grandma," he protested, his thin little voice full of frustration. "Obey your mother, my love," I said, my voice breaking. "Grandma will come back another day." Marina closed the door unceremoniously, and I stood there, holding that bag of cookies and the book, feeling my world crumble. The steps I took away from that house were the heaviest of my life. Each one of them weighed tons of pain, rejection, and injustice. I went back decades in time. As I walked along the uneven sidewalk, I remembered when Rodrigo was born, in that public hospital where I was alone throughout the labor. His father had disappeared 3 months earlier, leaving only debts and empty promises. I was 22 years old, with no education, no close family, just me and that tiny baby in my arms. I started working when Rodrigo was only 40 days old. I left him with Dona Margarita, the 70-year-old neighbor who took care of children for a few coins. I cleaned 3 houses a day. I woke up at 5 in the morning, took 2 buses, scrubbed floors, cleaned bathrooms, ironed clothes. I came back at 7 in the evening, picked up my son, made food, bathed him, rocked him to sleep, and then cleaned my own house. I slept 5 hours a night, if that. On weekends I did laundry for others, earning extra that barely paid for milk and diapers. Rodrigo grew up seeing my struggle, or at least I thought he had seen it. He saw me leaving at dawn, coming back exhausted. I never let him go without anything. Never. Even if it meant that I ate less, that I wore patched clothes, that I didn't have a decent pair of shoes. Rodrigo always had school supplies, a clean uniform, food on his plate. When he entered adolescence and wanted things that his friends had, I worked overtime. Brand name sneakers. I cleaned one more house. Video game. I worked on holidays. He wanted to take a prep course for college. I cleaned houses on Saturdays and Sundays too. My body ached, my hands bled, but I smiled at him and said, "Study, my son. Education is the only thing that no one can take away from you." And he studied. got into Univer Public University. He graduated in engineering. I cried with pride on graduation day. I wore my best dress, the one I had bought at a thrift store, and adjusted at home. He looked handsome in his gown, holding his diploma. When he called me onto the stage and hugged me, thanking me for everything, I thought all the sacrifice had been worth it. "Mom, this is yours too," he had said, with tears in his eyes. I believed him. I believed he recognized my struggle, my love, my dedication. But then he met Marina. If there's a special desire in your heart to change something in your life, if these words are touching you deeply, leave your comment here with your story and strengthen our community. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive more real stories of overcoming like this one. You are not alone. Marina came from an upper-middle-class family, entrepreneur parents, comfortable life. She had never needed to work in her life. She and Rodrigo met at a corporate party of the company where he had just been hired as a junior engineer. She was there accompanying a friend. When Rodrigo introduced her to me for the first time, I felt a pang in my chest. It wasn't intuition, it was the way she looked at me. From head to toe, analyzing my simple clothes, my sometimes incorrect Portuguese, my skin marked by the sun and work. I saw the disdain in her eyes, but I convinced myself that I was being paranoid, that maybe she was just shy. The wedding was celebrated at an expensive party that her parents paid for. I felt out of place the whole time, even wearing the dress I had saved up 6 months to buy. Marina's friends treated me with a cold politeness, asking questions that seemed like compliments but were disguised barbs. "Wow, you must have worked so hard to raise Rodrigo alone, right? It must have been so difficult." The tone of pity masked the judgment. Rodrigo was so happy that he didn't notice anything, or didn't want to notice. In the first years I could still see my grandchildren frequently. Marina tolerated my visits, but always with that air of superiority. I brought simple toys that I made at home, rag dolls, wooden cars that a carpenter friend helped me make. Marina laughed, said that the children preferred modern electronic toys. But I saw Lucas hugging that car, Sophia cradling that doll. Children know where there is true love. I told them stories of my childhood, of the times when playing was inventing fun with what you had. Marina said that I was filling their heads with poverty. Things got worse after I retired. I turned 60 and finally got my retirement, after having contributed for so long. The amount was small, barely enough to pay my rent, electricity, water, food. But it was mine. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to scrub other people's floors. I thought I could finally rest, enjoy my grandchildren, have time to do the things I never could do. But Marina saw my retirement as laziness, as if I had chosen to stop working out of lack of will, and not because my body couldn't take it anymore. My knees hurt, my hands had arthritis, my back begged for rest. Rodrigo changed too, or maybe he had always been like that, and I didn't want to see it. He started to agree with Marina. When I called to ask if I could visit the children, he said he was busy, that the children had many activities. Ballet for Sophia, soccer for Lucas, therapy, English classes, swimming. The children's schedule was busier than that of executives. I asked if I could go at a time that wouldn't bother them. He sighed on the other end of the line, as if I were a nuisance. "Mom, we'll call you when we can." Okay, but the call never came. My visits became increasingly rare. When I showed up without warning, Marina opened the door with that look of disapproval. "You should have called before, Helena. Today is not a good time." I begged just to give the children a kiss, and sometimes she allowed it, as long as it was quick. Lucas and Sophia began to look at me, as if I were a stranger. My heart broke every time I saw confusion in their eyes. I tried to talk to Rodrigo, but he always defended Marina. "Mom, she's right. The children need routine. You arrive by surprise and disrupt everything, and another thing, you could find something to do. You know, staying at home without working is not good for you." Those words hurt more than all the years of hard work. My own son, whom I had raised with so much love and sacrifice, was telling me that I had no value because I no longer worked. As if my existence was only valid if I was producing something economically, as if my love, my experience, my presence, that they meant nothing. I tried to explain that I had worked my whole life, that I had completely dedicated myself so that he would have a better future. He retorted, "Mom, that was your obligation. You had me, you had to raise me. Don't throw that in my face all the time." I was speechless. Obligation. That word echoed in my head for days. Everything I had done was an obligation, according to him. The sleepless nights when he was sick. The days I went hungry so he could eat. The clothes I patched to buy him books. All an obligation. None of that deserved gratitude, recognition, respect. I was just someone who had fulfilled a basic duty, and now, retired, I was disposable. After that humiliation at the door, I spent weeks unable to stop crying. I would wake up in the early morning, thinking about my grandchildren, wondering if they missed me, if they wondered why Grandma didn't visit anymore. I lost weight, lost sleep, lost the will to leave the house. My neighbor, Mrs. Celia, a 70-year-old lady who became my friend, began to worry. She knocked on my door, brought food, stayed talking to me. I told her everything, through tears. She hugged me and said, "Helena, you don't deserve this. But listen, you have to pull yourself together. For yourself." But how to pull myself together, when everything I had lived seemed to have been in vain? When the son I loved so much treated me like a burden? When my grandchildren were being raised to see me as someone without value? I spent an entire month drowning in that pain. Until something happened that changed everything. It was a Thursday afternoon, when I received a call from an unknown number. I answered with apprehension, thinking it was some debt collection. The voice on the other end was male, polite, formal. "Mrs. Helena, are you Helena Ferreira de Silva?" I confirmed, tense. "My name is Dr. Marcelo. I am a lawyer. Could you come to my office tomorrow? It's about an important matter, related to an inheritance." Inheritance? I had no family. Who would leave an inheritance to me? I thought it was a scam, but he gave me the address of an office in the city center and said that I could confirm the existence of the place before going. I spent the whole night without sleeping, confused. The next morning, I took the bus to downtown and found the building. It was a real office, beautiful, with a sign and everything. I went up to the 10th floor, my heart racing. The receptionist greeted me kindly and led me to a room where Dr. Marcelo was waiting for me. He was a man in his 50s, with gray hair, glasses, an impeccable suit. He asked me to sit down and began to explain something that seemed surreal. "Mrs. Helena, do you remember a Mr. Armando Soares?" The name sounded vaguely familiar to me, but I couldn't place it. He continued, "Mr. Armando was one of the people you worked for many years ago. You used to clean his house twice a week, if I'm not mistaken. That was about 25 years ago." Then I remembered. Mr. Armando, a widowed gentleman, without children, who lived alone in a large house. He was always kind to me, treated me with respect. We would talk while I cleaned. He told me about his life, about his deceased wife, about how lonely he felt. I listened to him, kept him company. Sometimes I took Rodrigo with me, when I had no one to leave him with, and Mr. Armando would let the boy play in the yard, even gave him snacks. He passed away 2 months ago, the lawyer said. And he left a will. My heart sped up. The lawyer opened a folder and showed me documents. Mr. Armando had no direct heirs. He left most of his assets to charities. But he also left something for you. A house. I didn't believe what I was hearing. A house. For me? He wrote a letter explaining. The lawyer continued, handing me a yellowish envelope. I opened it with trembling hands and read the handwritten words. "Helena, you were one of the few people who treated me with humanity and respect in the last years of my life. You were not just my employee, you were my friend. You kept me company, you listened to me, you cared. I saw how hard you worked to raise your son. I saw your dedication and your love. You deserve to have a safe place to call your own. This house is small, but it's yours. I hope it brings you peace." I cried so much in that office that the lawyer had to bring me water. It wasn't just the house, it was the recognition. It was someone telling me that I had value, that my presence had mattered to someone. Mr. Armando had seen me, really seen me, as a person. The house was in a quiet neighborhood, a few miles from where I lived. It was small, 2 bedrooms, living room, kitchen, backyard, simple, but beautiful. And it was mine. I didn't need to pay rent anymore. Suddenly, my retirement was enough to live with dignity. I moved there in 2 weeks. Okay, here's the culturally adapted version of Block 4, maintaining the original content and format, but adjusted for an English-speaking audience. Block 4 of 5 Celia helped me with everything. I painted the walls, arranged the furniture that Arthur had left, planted flowers in the yard. For the first time in decades, I felt truly at home. My house, my space, my sanctuary. I didn't tell Richard anything. He didn't call, didn't visit. Why should I share my joy with someone who scorned me? I focused on myself. I started doing things I had never had time to do before. I joined a craft group at the local church. I learned to crochet, embroider. I made friends with other women who, like me, had stories of struggle and overcoming adversity. I felt alive again. 3 months passed, 3 months without any contact from Richard or Marina. Until, one Saturday morning, I received a call from him. I was surprised to see his name on the screen. I answered with a heavy heart. "Mom, we need to talk. Can I come over?" He sounded nervous, different. I gave him my new address. He was silent when I told him and asked, "You moved? Where to?" I didn't explain over the phone. When Richard arrived and saw the house, his expression was one of shock. "This is your house." I invited him in, offered him coffee. He was uncomfortable, looking around. "Mom, how did you get this house?" I explained about the inheritance, about Arthur, about the recognition I received from someone who valued me. I saw something pass across his face, maybe shame, maybe surprise. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he started talking, tripping over his words. Marina had left him. She had found another man, someone richer, and had filed for divorce. She took half his assets and left. He was devastated, lost, trying to take care of the kids alone. "I don't know what to do, Mom. The kids are crying for you. Lucas asks every week when Grandma is coming back." I felt a mix of pain and anger. Now he was coming to me. Now that he needed something. "And what do you expect me to do, Richard?" Open my arms as if nothing happened. He lowered his head. "I know I was unfair to you. I know I hurt you. Marina was always in my ear, saying you were a burden, that you were ruining our lives, and I believed her. I was a coward. I forgot everything you did for me. I lost my mother trying to please a woman who was no good." His tears were real, but my pain was too. "Richard, you humiliated me. You treated me like trash. You said everything I did for you was an obligation. You prevented me from seeing my grandchildren. You made me feel useless, disposable." He cried. He cried like a child, begging for forgiveness. "Mom, I was a terrible son, but please, give me a chance to fix this. The kids need you. I need you." I looked at that grown man crying in front of me, and saw the little boy I had rocked so many nights. I saw the son I loved deeply, despite all the pain he had caused me, but I also saw that I had changed. I was no longer that woman, who bent over backwards, who accepted crumbs of affection. I had learned my worth. "Richard, I'm not just going to go back to your life as if nothing happened. You owe me respect. You owe me recognition. Not just because I'm your mother, but because I'm a human being who deserves dignity. I worked my whole life. Yes, it was my duty to raise you, but it was more than that. It was love. It was a daily choice to put you first. And that needs to be respected." He agreed. Between sobs, I set conditions. He would have to acknowledge, in front of the children, the value I had. He would have to teach them that respect for elders, especially those who sacrificed for us, is non-negotiable. He would have to formally apologize for everything he did. And he would have to understand that my time, my presence, were gifts, not obligations. He agreed to everything. In the following months we rebuilt our relationship slowly. Lucas and Sophia came back into my life with a joy that filled me with happiness. We played in the yard of my house. We made cookies together. I told them stories. Richard was present, participated, and for the first time I felt that he really saw who I was. He started telling the children about my story, about how I worked hard, about my love and sacrifice. And they looked at me with genuine admiration. One day, Richard gathered the children and said, "Do you know that Grandma is a hero?" Lucas widened his eyes. "A real hero?" Richard nodded. "Yes, she raised me alone, worked hard for me to have an education, health, everything. She never gave up, even when it was very difficult. And I was very unfair to her. I was a bad son." He turned to me, his eyes tearing up. "Mom, in front of my children, I ask for your forgiveness. Forgive me for disrespecting you, for pushing you away, for not valuing everything you did for me. You are the strongest woman I know, and I am very proud to be your son." I cried at that moment, but they were tears of healing, not pain. Sophia climbed onto my lap and hugged me tightly. "Grandma, I love you so much." Lucas gave me a drawing he had made, where he, Sophia, Rodrigo and I were all together, smiling, with a big red heart in the middle. Mr. Armando's house became a home full of children's laughter, hugs, and true love. Today when I look back, I see that the pain I went through taught me something valuable. It taught me that our worth isn't in how much we produce economically, but in who we are, in the love we give, in the lives we touch. Mr. Armando saw that in me when many didn't. He taught me that being seen, truly seen, is one of the greatest gifts we can receive. And I also learned that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, or allowing people to hurt us again. It means choosing to release the bitterness, but also setting healthy boundaries. Rodrigo truly changed. He became a present, respectful father, and a son who recognizes and honors my sacrifice. But this change was only possible because I changed too. I stopped accepting crumbs. I stopped putting myself last. I discovered that I deserved respect, dignity, genuine love. And when you discover your own worth, the world around you starts to treat you differently. My story isn't unique. There are thousands of women out there who sacrifice themselves, who work to exhaustion, who give their all for their children, for their family, and then are discarded, forgotten, devalued. But I want them to know, you have value. Your work has value. Your love has value. Your existence has value. It doesn't matter if you work outside the home or not, if you're retired or not, if you have money or not. You are valuable, because you are human, because you love, because you care. And for those who have mothers, grandmothers, women who sacrificed for you, don't wait until it's too late to recognize this. Don't wait until they're no longer here, or until they're so hurt that it's difficult to fix. Recognize it now. Thank them now. Respect them now. Because these women deserve much more than empty words or last-minute gratitude. They deserve to be honored, celebrated, loved deeply, while they are still here. I was reborn from that humiliation. I was reborn stronger, more aware of my worth, more determined not to accept less than I deserve. And if I could do it, you can too. No matter how many times they knock you down, you can get back up. No matter who tells you that you have no worth, you do. Your worth doesn't depend on anyone's approval. It's in you. It always has been. It always will be. And when you see yourself through the eyes of someone who truly sees you, like Mr. Armando saw me, everything changes, life changes, and you become unbeatable.